Welcome to Simply Scottish. I'm Andrew McDiarmid. Thank you for tuning in today. Isn't it great we can come together wherever you are in the world and for a little time be walking with one another, on the same page as it were, enjoying each other's company? I think it's pretty awesome. And today I'm doing things a little differently. I usually have a script that I work with for each episode of Simply Scottish. I have done ever since it's been a radio show. And it's just sort of the perfectionist in me wanting to make sure I get all the bases covered and make sure I do it right. But today I'm coming off script. And I hope you'll indulge me. I hope you'll listen in and share your comments as you need to. But I just thought it was a good time to do it. I don't get to do episodes of Simply Scottish as much as I used to. When I first started this as a podcast back in 2011, I was putting out about one a week. Very enthusiastic and eager. Well, life took its toll, and life finds a way, as the mathematician in Jurassic Park likes to say. I have 3 daughters, and so in 2011, I started this show. I think it was fall, and got quite a few out the door. But then my mother was sick with cancer, and she passed in April of 2012. So that obviously threw me for a loop, and I slowed down a bit. I had another daughter in 2014, and then again in 16, and of course full-time work as well. And I just it was hard because I have such a passion for doing this, such a passion for sharing my nation and just reaching out to people via podcast. So it was frustrating when I couldn't do it as often as I used to. But as you can see from these episodes, I get them out when I can, and I haven't stopped the show, nor do I plan to. It has always been a labor of love for me. Funny story, it came out of a traffic ticket all the way back in 1999 in South Texas. My family had immigrated to the United States, and in Texas in particular, in 1990. And I had junior high and high school down there. And I won't go too much into the story, but I was speeding one night and got a ticket. And the judge, when I went to the court, offered me community service to work it off so I didn't have to pay it. And I chose to do my community service at the local NPR and PBS public TV and radio station for the Rio Grande Valley, right at the tip of Texas, southern tip. And that's where I did my community service. And I met some folks, and turns out the program director of KMBH KHID 88.9 FM was looking for some programming. And my dad and I had the idea of doing a Scottish show. So anyway, all that to say, it's been a labor of love since then. My dad and I, faithfully every Wednesday evening, our show would come on. We would do it live. It was almost never recorded, which is a feat in itself, really, especially for this perfectionist who wanted the production to go exactly as I imagined it every time. But with my dad on board, and I don't know how much you've heard him unless you've listened to episodes of the radio show. I have released a few as archive editions of the radio program on the podcast. But week in and week out, I was sitting with my dad and we co-hosted the show. He would tell his stories of Scotland, and I would share what was happening in the modern Scotland. And it was quite a pairing. And we had an engineer who would help us, put on the music that I selected. And overall, it went off pretty well. It was quite a popular show for folks who listened to NPR and enjoyed the variety of programming that you often get on an NPR station. We came on right after All Things Considered, and that was one of the more popular NPR shows, so hopefully we nabbed the audience from that and carried it through the show. But I digress. Anyway, you know how to reach me probably by now. The website is simplyscottish.com. My email address is andrew@simplyscottish.com. We do have a Facebook page and a Twitter profile. As much as I am growing to dislike big tech companies like that, I do want to keep in touch with you guys in whatever way I can. So you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. And where else can you find us? Well, podcast-wise, the show, I guess that makes a we. We're on basically any podcast profile you can find out there. Google Play, Spotify, TuneIn. We started on Podomatic, so we're obviously there. iTunes is a big directory, and we're there. I think you can now look us up on Audible and Amazon too, which is great if that's your cup of tea as far as tech companies go. Well, that's how to reach me. Again, I love your questions, suggestions for future episodes, and just comments telling me why you love Scotland, where are you listening from. It's always good to know, to get a little bit of that two-way street. I'm talking right now, you're listening, but I want to listen too, to your story. Well, to get us started with music, I chose a track from the neo-trad trio Project Smok, blending traditional Scottish music with contemporary pop influences. I've never heard these guys before until I looked this up with a service called Folk Waves, which makes a lot of newer Scottish music available to me as a radio or podcast producer. Very helpful service. And I just came across this track. It's a remix of their song Cated. I think it's in the Gaelic, the name anyway, and it means Katie. So there you have it. So let's give this a listen, and we'll jump into some more thoughts that I have off script. The rare off script, Simply Scottish. Well, we're back. This is Simply Scottish. I'm, again, Andrew McDiarmid. And that was Project Smok. It's a neo-trad trio producing music that blends traditional Scottish music with contemporary pop influences. Quite enjoyable to listen to. Now that's the remix. I wonder what the original sounds like. Look it up. Well, life happens off script. That is one of my themes on this episode. And I just want to talk today. I just want to be off script. I'm not here to tell you about a famous Scottish person or event in history. I don't have a whole lot going on except just to talk with you one-on-one. Life happens off script. What I mean by that is, well, exactly what I'm doing. I'm off script, and it's just something I've thought about recently. So much is coming at us in our day-to-day lives, and often we'll have a prepared answer for things. We'll have a version of ourself that we like to put out on social media and toward others. You can't prepare for the things that will happen to us that are often the biggest things that will happen to us in our lives. It's not scripted, if you will. There are many choices we face every day, and we don't always get a manual saying, well, you should do this next, and you should do that next. Some people would argue that the Bible's a manual, and I think that is true, and I adhere to it. I don't read it as much as I should, but it certainly is a source of wisdom, and it tells us the story that God has for us and what He's done for others who believe in Him, and the gift of salvation, and it's good. It's great. I wish it would tell me what to do with some of these other decisions that I come across. It just would be nice to have that guidance, but we don't always have it, and we have to make our choices, and there's sometimes no script to go along with, and often we also find that when we're tested, that's where life happens too. We sometimes, I'm sure, would think, well, maybe if we just didn't have all these challenges coming at us, we could get along, and we could live, and we could be at peace and enjoy life a bit more. But the reality, as we know, is that we're tested every single day. Waking up in the morning is basically an agreement with yourself and with the world that we're going to face new challenges today, and we're going to not give up, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to have some success, some failure. We're going to have a lot of learning and improvement. Getting up in the morning, you're basically saying that. But we're tested. We're tested in a variety of ways. We're not always ready for these tests. We don't want them sometimes, but they are a good milepost to see where we're at. And there's often immediate feedback there. Sometimes later feedback with reflection and with talking to others. But, you can get a sense for, gosh, I messed up on that. Or, shoot, that was not the right approach. Or, darn, I'm not ready for this. And so we can learn from all that. That's feedback that's valuable. You'll read in some of these books that failure is just opportunity in working clothes. To borrow a quote from one famous person, I can't remember who it is now, but opportunities in working clothes. That's problems. That's testing. That's failure. And the question is, will we make use of it? Will we learn from it? Will we be humble enough to admit where we need help and where we need to improve and where we could be better? I had my first Father's Day without my father in June here, and that was, it was nice to be with my kids and to get they all got a little book from their mother, and they filled it out with all the reasons they love me and all the things they appreciate about me. So that was pretty special. So I wasn't. It wasn't a sad day, but it was my. I realized going into it, it was my first day without my father. And for listeners who have been with me a while, my father was one of my biggest fans, and he was always in my corner, always encouraging me. He and I co-founded Simply Scottish back in 1999 down in Texas, and it was just this project that we came up with together. And he moved in with us in 2017, and he had quite a few health issues. He was in a wheelchair after some amputations, and he was at that time diagnosed with early onset dementia, which I knew nothing about going into this. And a couple of years later, I was told it was the Alzheimer's form of dementia, which, looking back now, is basically not something you recover from. But I probably didn't do enough homework and didn't realize quick enough that was the case. I suppose I did in the back of my mind, but not in the front. But anyway, we took care of my dad from 2017 to early 2021. And he got to spend time with his grandchildren, at least my daughters. My sister has a daughter, and she lives in Scotland. And he saw her a few times and was able to keep in touch. But, we did our best to help him through this disease of losing cognitive faculties. And it was humbling to be a part of that and to see that. It was sad to be able to talk with my dad less and less, and or at least to where he could understand the deeper level things I was going through. So in a lot of ways, it's a slow letting go, a slow inability to talk with someone with that disease, and that's hard. It's hard, and you kind of learn as you go. But anyway, I had my first Father's Day without him, and I miss him. And just today, I went down to the bottom of our driveway to the main road and did what he did last summer, and quite a bit before that. During COVID, he wasn't able to travel around town on the bus like he had done for so many years. And instead, he just would go down on his wheelchair to the bottom of the driveway and just wave at people. That was the kind of man he was. He would wave at folks, he would smile at them, and when they stopped to speak with him, he was just overjoyed to have that interaction. My dad was such a happy man, and he really taught me the value of simplicity in life. We often have these layers of complexity, and a lot of it's our own doing, and we lose sight of what a simple life is and what it's comprised of. And he taught me and reminded me of that on a regular basis. I lost him in late January of 2021, and we were all sad to lose him. I know that I'll be reunited with him one day, and for now I'm carrying his legacy on with me. I want to be that happy and simple individual that he was, sharing joy with others and spreading cheer and happiness everywhere he went. And his sense of humor was amazing. My sense of humor is probably half of his. Hopefully it comes out in this show, maybe not enough. Anyway, so that's one thing that I've gone through recently. Another thing that came up was the Euro 2020 soccer tournament. They call it 2020. It was supposed to happen last year, but COVID struck. So it's happening this year in 2021. And Scotland made it to the finals, which was the first time since 1998 when they were in the World Cup hosted by France. That's 23 years it took them to the national team to qualify for a major soccer tournament. And that's been rough for myself as a fan of Scottish football and for a lot of folks. But they made it, and then it didn't last very long. They were in a group that included the Czech Republic, Croatia, England. So we had a Scotland-England game, and that actually went quite well. Scotland held England to a 0-0 draw, but it was down to the third game against Croatia, who were World Cup runners-up in 2018, and alas, we were outclassed. And once again, we get to see Scotland crash out of a major tournament too early. Which reminds me of a song by the Scottish group Delamitri. You may remember it or know it. It's called Don't Come Home Too Soon. So that was disappointing. But it did remind me of something that I'll be talking about on an upcoming episode, and that is, what is Scotland's national anthem? As you probably are aware, Flower of Scotland is often sung now, and it's a good song. I don't have any complaints. Before that, mostly it was Scotland the Brave. The song Caledonia has been a bit of an unofficial anthem at times. Definitely Flower of Scotland these days. But I'll do an episode where we kind of look at the different songs and kind of where they originated, and we'll dig a little deeper into that. Anyway, something else that I wanted to talk to you about was I got to see Sean Connery on the big screen again. And this was quite amazing. I'm a big fan of Sean Connery, and he died, sadly. I think it was late in 2020, very late in the year. And just a couple months before my dad. And Sean also had dementia. So he was 10 years older than my dad. But that was a big loss. I remember getting pretty upset on hearing that. My dad and I were big fans of Sean Connery. And one of the movies that really solidified that from myself and my dad together was the 1989 Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. And that is the movie I got to see in the theater the other week. Just on Father's Day. I noticed that my local theater was playing it, and I could not resist. So I snapped up a couple tickets, and I called my stepson, Noah, and he was happy to go with me. And it was quite cool just to spend Father's Day with him and enjoy this awesome movie that has a really powerful message, actually, for fathers and sons. Their relationship is not perfect, but there's chemistry there in terms of working together and just making things right. Harrison Ford is pretty much my favorite actor, and to see him with Sean Connery was just amazing. They don't make movies like that anymore. Where are all the good movies, actually? I know COVID struck and has caused a ruckus in the movie scene, as has the advent of streaming platforms and the endless pot of money they have to spend on content. But somebody needs to realize that, just because you have a bunch of money doesn't actually translate to high quality, unforgettable stories in film. I have generally two categories for the films I see: forgettable and unforgettable. The Last Crusade is in my unforgettable category. When that movie first came out, that's about the time we came to America, and I do remember seeing it on the big screen. From the time it came out, my family would just kind of memorized all the lines, and we would laugh at each other just saying the different lines. Don't call me Junior. We named the dog Indiana. And just all the funny lines that you hear in the movie. But it was very entertaining to just sit there with my stepson and soak in these performances once again and see it on the big screen, where movies really need to be seen. Maybe not always, but just soaking in a film production on the big screen allows you to appreciate it in a way that you can't do on a small screen, at least not always. So I, for one, am glad that COVID has died down and we can start seeing movies again. I did see A Quiet Place 2 as well and enjoyed that. That is a good piece of entertainment, especially to see in the movie theater. However, it was great to see Sean Connery on the big screen. If you get a chance, hopefully your local theater can carry films like that, and you can see those old gems from the past. Well, we've been tested a lot in the last year and a half. All of us have. But those tests are when we can prove our mettle, as I was mentioning earlier. Suffering builds character, and it can often bring gratefulness as well, because in the midst of our suffering, we get a different perspective, or at least we can if we're open to it. I'm somebody who can often complain about things, but complaining clouds that opportunity, because you're so busy complaining, so busy thinking like Eeyore, oh, bother. If it weren't raining, things would be better. That sort of idea. You miss the opportunities, to see the silver lining, as they say, but also to just appreciate the suffering, which sounds so counterintuitive, especially today when we're seeing so many people who have so much and they choose to complain about things and get mad about things and get so bent out of shape. But suffering does build character, and it can bring gratefulness. So that is something I started when my third daughter was born. In fact, the day before she was born, I began an app-based thankfulness, gratefulness journal, and I keep it up, not every day, but as inspiration strikes. And it's been good. It's been good to capture what I'm grateful for. I think it's helped me to appreciate the days that we go through. They may not all be perfect, but there are things in each day that we can be grateful for and we can learn from. I was thinking the other day that it's been 30 years ago, last year, that I came to America as an 11-year-old boy from Edinburgh. A lot has changed in that time, but some things remain the same. And I was thinking it took 30 years for me to fully appreciate what America is and why it's worth defending. This is something that I will be writing about more probably, and I may talk about it more on the show. But 2020, as we know, was a whopper of a year. But it was the year also that I was ready to admit that America was the greatest country in the world, not Scotland. Now, my goal is not to offend anybody, because obviously the country you live in, chances are you think it's pretty great, otherwise you wouldn't be there. But I'm just giving you my perspective. I'm not out to bully anybody into thinking the same way as me, but I'm offering a perspective. And, by default, Scotland was always my favorite country and what I would consider to be the best country in the world. But where was that coming from? Well, from birth to 11, I lived in Scotland. And I did what every other Scottish boy did and enjoyed my time there and was all about football and, just enjoying life there. But it wasn't until I left Scotland that I grew to be a patriot and a Scottish nationalist. When I came to America, specifically in 1995, when a certain movie called Braveheart came out, that's where the flame started in me to promote my homeland and appreciate it and learn more about it and share that knowledge with others. Yeah, I always thought that Scotland was the best country in the world. That was my default answer. But how and why I could know that, I don't know. Beyond 11, I didn't live there. I lived in America. And I enjoyed American freedoms here for many years before I finally grew to fully appreciate them. And it was the severe testing America has gone through in the last year and a half with COVID, with racial issues, with political issues, the ongoing culture war. All that led me to realize the importance and the value of American freedom and the American experiment. So I thought that was quite remarkable. It took 30 years to fully appreciate that. And also remarkable that I would consider Scotland to be the greatest country, and only when America was tested so much last year did I finally acknowledge that I felt America was. So a pretty interesting moment for me. And technology is playing its part too. Social media can often be either a battleground or an echo chamber, and the constant distractions from our tech devices, along with the ever-increasing reach of big tech into our daily lives, isn't good for our mental health. We're not getting time to think and reflect. We're not interacting with others face-to-face as much. We're following a script that's either written for us or one that we're sticking to because that's what we think people want. But I do think there's value in getting off script. It's time to be real with each other again. It's time to embrace the tests that we face each day as an opportunity to show what we're made of. And if we see room for improvement, let's take it. Let's build resilience, grow in wisdom, look beyond ourselves to people around us. People are hurting. They're in need. They're lonely. They're angry, hopeless, defeated, starving for affirmation, desperate for someone to care. We need to not look so much at ourselves, get our heads up from our devices, come out of our shells, turn the TV off, and really be neighbors. That's what it's about. It's about community. It's about relationships, being enriched by others as you enrich them. And I know we know all this, but I think COVID has helped us remember this and helped us practice this more. All those freedoms we lost with the lockdowns and just the uncertainty and the fear and the playing it safe. As COVID dies down around the world, God willing, and we get back to, things that we were doing, obviously with a new perspective and with new lessons learned, I just hope we can be real with each other. We can be off script and we can be real. Well, this is me being real on Simply Scottish. Thank you for listening today. I have a couple of songs. We've heard one already, and I have one more to end the show. And, I've enjoyed this, actually. I really appreciate you joining me for this. This is good for me to do now and then, I enjoy writing scripts. I enjoy making it as good a product as it can be as a podcast. But there's always room for being real. Well, to finish up, here's a new track from Scottish folk singer Iona Fyfe. It's her rendition of an iconic song, The Northern Lights of Old Aberdeen. I'm Andrew McDiarmid for Simply Scottish. Thank you very much for listening, and join me again soon.
Godspeed today when I'm on my way to my home in Aberdeen. I've wandered in many far off lands and travelled many a mile. I've missed the folk I've cherished the most, the joy of a friendly smile. It warms up the heart of a wanderer, the clasp of a welcoming hand to greet me when I return home to my native land. The northern lights of old Aberdeen, been home, sweet home to me. The northern lights of Aberdeen are what I long to see. I've been a wanderer all my life, and many's the sight I've seen. Godspeed today when I'm on my way to my home in Aberdeen. The northern lights of old Aberdeen, been home, sweet home to me. The northern lights of Aberdeen are what I long to see. I've been a wanderer all my life, and many's the sight I've seen. Godspeed today when I'm on my way to my home in Aberdeen. Godspeed today when I'm on my way to my home